Welcome into the Paycast Network, where today we are talking about leases. But before we talk about leases, I am joined by the best beard in the business here on my left, James.
Hello, everyone.
And we have another friend of the program, been on, who knows, 3 or 4 episodes now, and will definitely not be the last one. Carlos Nieto, thank you for joining us again.
Hola.
That man saying all that to you is going to be our leases expert for today. But before we get into that, I actually have a surprise for both of you. This might not be a huge surprise to you. I told you that this was coming eventually. We're going to start with some trivia.
Oh,
before we get into
I am surprised.
Yeah?
I have not prepared. Wait a second.
I know, that was the point. And I got different questions than the ones you tried to cheat on earlier when you were looking at my screen.
Listen, I told you. I come in to talk about something unrelated, right? And as we're wrapping up, Chase is like, wait a second, don't look at this screen, as he tries to hide a document. Well, I wasn't looking at the screen to begin with. I was literally about to walk out of his office. The fact that you drew attention to it made me want to go look at what it was.
Well, that's because you're a rule breaker, James.
I am.
Was it a Pac-Man screen?
Yeah, I was just playing games.
Minesweeper.
Yeah, Galaga. But yes, so it is new to us, but depending on the releases of the episodes, this might not be new to the viewer. But at whatever point in time you're listening to this episode, we're going to start doing this trivia thing here at the beginning. If you get the answer right, throw it in a comment somewhere and let us know, because I'm going to try to make these pretty difficult. So if somebody does know it, that would be cool, and let us know. And even if you don't know it, tell us that you knew it in the comments, because I think we'll believe you either way.
Do they win merch? Is there merch?
Of course. James will send them something.
It's a surprise.
An invoice.
With a 4% fee.
Cash discounted. No price.
And on the note of commenting on wherever you see this, I think we just haven't mentioned this before. I'm gonna mention it every time now. You can listen to this on anywhere you get podcasts, the Paycast Network, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Like, share, subscribe, that whole thing that YouTubers say. But yeah, so let's start with the first trivia question. So we're going to treat this like Jeopardy. You both have buzzers. I'm just kidding. All right. What was the very first credit card made out of, and who issued it? Carlos.
Plastic. The bank. JCPenney.
James, do you want to answer?
I would assume it would be plastic too. A lot of cards today are metal, but
Cardboard.
Cardboard.
The Diners Club in 1950 issued a cardboard credit card, only accepted in 28 restaurants and 2 hotels in New York City. Wells
Fargo still has a card that's kind of real flimsy, like cardboard.
So how would that work, though? Are they like just writing numbers in the card and then you type in on the typewriter your numbers, or like?
So there's another question that's on a different trivia list that kind of explains how that worked. But from my understanding, it really was there's a particular guy that forgot his wallet one night and was very embarrassed. So he I guess, started the Diners Club or ran.
So
the
they
Diners
essentially
Club.
just gave him a line of credit.
Essentially, yeah.
He made up
Pretty
a
much.
paper. He's like, look, it's real.
Yeah, pretty much.
Here we are.
Yes, exactly. And he convinced 28 restaurants and 2 hotels in New York City that it would work.
And now we've got fees and statements and invoices.
Yeah,
and
look at us now. Leases.
Recurring payments.
Equipment leases.
ACH.
Residuals.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Next one. Who invented the ATM and when? I don't hear any buzzers going off, fellas.
You guys chime on in.
Let us know in the comments. I'm not actually sure.
I do not know.
Not sure on that one.
So it is a gentleman by the name of John Shepherd Barron. The first ATM was installed in London in 1967. And the fun part of this question is that the story goes that John Shepherd Barron got the idea for an ATM when he was at a chocolate dispensing vending machine. And realized that he could probably make a vending machine that also dispensed cash instead of just chocolate. I like to envision a guy standing at a vending machine getting chocolate and looking at it and say, be cool if money came out of this thing, huh?
So he brought it out. I've seen a lot of vending machines, especially in Japan.
Yeah.
If we all started from an ATM, that's pretty
I
cool.
saw this week that there's a new Chick-fil-A vending machine,
Oh, that's perfect.
and it is closed on Sundays.
Of course it is. All right. Next one. Around when was the term fintech first used?
2010.
No.
I say 2020.
Nope.
2000.
Way older.
Way older.
In the 90s.
Way older.
Okay, well, that's before my time.
1984.
Way older. Its foundation dates back to the late 19th century with the development of the telegraph and the establishment of the Fed Wire Funds Service in 1918,
The telegraph.
which allowed
Who
for
knew
early
that?
electronic funds transfers.
Huh.
Fintech. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. Crazy.
And that, a lot of people in the past few years said fintech is a made-up word.
Yeah. No, not so much. Fed Wire Fund Service. We'll have to dive into that one a little bit later. I'm not
That's a
really
whole
sure.
nother show.
Yeah. Okay. That was our trivia segment for the week. Let's jump into leases. So, from my experience with leases, you two are obviously going to have a deeper knowledge of leases, but I've really just heard about equipment leases, and it's a merchant saying, why am I still paying $89 a month for this piece of equipment that I haven't used in 2 years, 3 years? A lot of times I think they probably don't even notice it for a while.
Yeah.
They do notice it, and then
Well, they just mark it off as a business expense.
Most
Right.
don't know they signed it.
Yeah.
right, and then once they find it, it's a lot of times it's like I can't get out of it kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? So let's start with what is a lease? Explain what a lease is to me like I'm a third grader.
A lease could be a good or bad thing. When I got into the industry, well, actually, as a business owner, I was offered a lease also. Wasn't hard to see that, Costco, they had Nova payment systems back then. They typically dealt with leases. Usually those devices came, the rep would offer it, say that they cost $2,000 or you could lease it for $50 a month. Made great business sense if you knew what the terms were. Or now with the technology, people just read up on it. They're like, oh, this isn't a good thing. Well, I remember Micros or Aloha could cost $50,000 or more to install. And that's a huge upfront cost for a restaurateur, so a lease would make sense. When we sold digital dining, the point of sale dealer would lease them out, and it would have a dollar buyout at the end. And a lot of those systems are still up and running, and there's no monthly payments on them. It was what it was meant to do. But leases now are very profitable for reps, and some of them are doing shady things to get that income without really understanding the repercussions other than they're making money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think at least, it makes a lot of sense for like the full-fledged point of sale systems. Because again, those are expensive, right? Especially if you're talking a 5-station plus install.
And it's the upfront cost is the expensive part, like you were mentioning, the $50,000. That's why it would be
Right.
a good thing as opposed to a single terminal that costs whatever $200.
Right. But nowadays, what we're really finding is just about everything, even down to the basic countertop terminals, those are now carrying your software as a service fees, right? And so on top of the lease, you also have the monthly fees for the actual software. And then it doesn't, in my mind, doesn't always make a lot of sense either for a traditional countertop terminal. One case in point, a few years ago, we had a sales rep who leased out a very basic countertop terminal. There was no online integration. There were no gateways tied into the device. It was just strictly a countertop terminal. Think VX5 series, right? Very, very basic. And the device that he was placing, it had a cost of like $199 total just for the hardware. And when we read through the terms of the lease over the time period, it was coming up to almost $3,000 just for that device, which is insane.
So let's break down for me how something like that happens. Like where is the disconnect? Where is the maybe misleading or the selling where someone has a device that is worth $200 and they end up paying $3,000 for it?
There's a couple things. You've got agents who are just shady by nature. They'll be deceitful and they'll work really hard to sell that terminal. But on the other hand, you have a merchant who may not be fully versed in the actual technology that they're that they're leasing, right? They don't understand how it works. A lot of them, they don't take the time to go online and do a comparative search for that same hardware. And so they're coming in kind of blind, and they're putting their faith and trust into that sales rep.
Right. Especially when they lie about it. There's a lot of bait and switches out there where they're like, they see their statement. Most merchants don't know how to read their statement.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I'm going to save you $500 a month. You're just going to pay $50 a month for this lease or $100 a month, so it's still a $400 wash. I've walked into a place where that scenario has happened, and I looked at their statement, I'm like, but your fees are only $200, so how did they save you $5?
Yeah.
So it's a clear bait and switch. I worked with a rep that left the company to work for us at my old provider, and he said he wanted to do things the right way, so we visited the accounts that he placed leases on. That's how I got into getting people out of their leases. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It is difficult. But I used to do backflips to get people out of their leases before they were my customer. And then I learned that once they were out of their lease, they just went with their bank or somewhere else. So I don't mind sharing info, but I'm not, going through those hoops.
Would you say that the use of leases in a more negative way, like we're talking about, is a newer thing?
I think now you really hear about the negative stories that are out there. I mean, in our forums, if you just mention, oh, I love leasing, you'll probably get 2-3 good replies, and everyone else is bashing it. They're like, how dare you?
Yeah.
You're a scum or so-and-so. But there are some people that seem to be ethical in the groups, and it's just another form of income. Same thing like paper suppliers. There's all these different suppliers. But I say if you're transparent how the program works for you,
Right.
then great, it's a win-win. But if you sneak it in there in paperwork, or you said that you just signed a lease for a Clover or Deja Vu or whatever device, and they somehow got an older, different piece of hardware, then something's going on there. It takes 3 business days, and it's in the writing of a lease that says non-cancelable. So there's a reason that rep typically disappears for a few days, and then they come back and install the equipment. If that merchant calls the leasing company and says, oh, I don't want this anymore, close the lease, terminate it right away, they will take the number of months remaining of that lease, and they will draft that out of your bank account.
Yeah.
And that has happened. Yeah.
Wow.
That has happened. That could leave a merchant bankrupt pretty much for, a small mom and pop.
Yeah.
They can't pay their lease their real lease for their business.
Right.
They can't pay that much because someone pulled $4,000 to $10,000 out of their account.
Is there ever a scenario other than the large upfront sums that we mentioned where a lease would be the best route for a merchant?
I think if all options are presented to a merchant, you just do, there's your pros, cons, or it just has to make sense for the merchant.
Right.
Like, I used to sell cars, and when I was in the finance department, everyone wanted to shove the gap insurance and all these different things into it because it made us a lot more money. But I told them, why don't you come up with the 3 different plans on paper, show it to the merchant, show it to the customer, whoever's buying the vehicle or whatever product, let them decide, because they'll bump themselves up if you just give them the facts.
Yeah.
You're like, no warranty here, this one's always under warranty. So leases are typically always under warranty. So that's one thing that does happen now. Equipment doesn't last as long as it used to. We get all these tamper messages. So if you buy an equipment today for $400 and a year and 3 days later, you get the tamper message, it's out of warranty. Now you got to go buy, But there's a lot of creative structures now, alternatives.
And also consider, too, the rate that technology moves, right?
Yeah.
So you place a countertop terminal with a 5-year lease. Well, within a few years, depending on the actual device and any cloud software, if any, tied behind it, the technology there is going to date in just a few years. Just like, your computers, your phone, you get so many years out of that depending on the device. Terminals are no different.
Right. Do you have, for both of you, I want to hear the worst lease story you've ever had. the worst encounter or situation you've ever run into where somebody was in a lease, or
There's some bad ones.
I'm sure you got some of these as well.
One that stands to mind, similar to my other story, we had an agent place a Clover Flex. He leased it out, and with the terms, it was near $4,500 over the lifetime for that device over the course of the lease. And this is a rep that we don't actually work with anymore. But when the merchant called us, they couldn't actually get a hold of their rep, so they ended up calling us. They had tried email, they tried to call. The rep had given his phone number, his cell phone to the merchant, could not get a hold of them. And so they called us, really frustrated with the terms, and the terminal was having some issues, and they needed a replacement, but they still had like 3 years left on the lease. And it was just a messy, from the support standpoint, and getting the issuing equipment out, it was just messy all around. Mm-hmm. Not impossible, but definitely a thorn in the side to deal through.
I had it was a little old lady, one of those Hispanic tiendas out in the boonies. Not my typical account to walk in, but I saw it. I'm like, hey, you know what? Let me just say hello, introduce myself with the chamber and all that.
Yeah.
And then she told me that she's stuck with her current processor. So I asked her, what do you mean you're stuck with them? Because in that state, it was $395 max cancellation fee. But that's for merchant processing. The lease, she had a Ladco lease on a Hypercom T7. The old square that probably still works today. Actually, it still works today with Western Union.
Okay.
If you go to Publix or something, you're going to see they're using those old devices. But she was on year number 7 going 8, and she was still paying $99 a month for that device. And one of the issues was it's a 4-year lease, non-cancelable. She did take it to the attorney and said, I can't do anything. Your signature is right there. It says non-cancelable lease. And that's where I started digging into, I came from the mortgage industry before that. And then I said, there's predatory programs like, predatory lending that the rep could be responsible for doing bad stuff. Like, there has to be something for predatory leasing or other things for taking advantage. And that's where I dug into dealing with the Department of Justice.
Okay.
Yeah, so 7, almost 8 years in, I saw that the DOJ website for North Carolina had filed a consumer complaint. So you click that button, then it said, I am a business owner. You click that button, and then it said, what's your complaint? I filled it out, and at that point, it was Attorney General Roy Cooper, and they replied. They wrote a letter to Ladco Leasing, and it basically says you have 15 business days to reply. Otherwise, they're suing you. This is the state coming after the leasing company.
State is suing.
Wow.
This is our tax dollars at work.
Yeah.
So this was North Carolina Department of Justice, and they went. They answered back fairly quick. I would say probably about 7 days after that letter was sent, they replied back to the state. The state sent the letter to the merchant and said their excuse was, our reps are 1099 independent agents. We have no control of what they do or say, but we will gladly remove this lease from our portfolio.
Of course they would.
Wow.
That was
I
it.
bet they did.
That
Gladly,
was it.
right?
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, those leases, it's not just a non-cancelable part,
Right.
but there's also terms in there that says 15-day window before it auto-renews.
Yep.
So you could get stuck.
Like forever. Right?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's talk about, and I don't know if Ladco is one of these, but it reminded me of that, third-party leasing companies. How does that work? What is their relation to an ISO or an agent, merchant?
I've seen different ones, and some aren't around anymore. I'm not sure if Ladco's still around. Ladco, there was Lansing, there was FDGL, that was a big one, First Data Global. And at least those, like FDGL, would work with the merchant back then. So I could actually walk into a place and, well, you have to get creative. So I knew that I wanted the merchant account. And if I knew that they were stuck on the lease, like, hey, this terminal is not compatible with our gift card program.
So you're the agent walking in, telling a merchant that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So they would tell me that they're stuck in a lease, and I found out, oh, well, they usually have to provide the unlock code. These were back to the 570s, the 510s, the devices. I'm like, oh, it's not compatible with the gift card. Or when they're troubleshooting on the phone, like, enter this password, and that's it. Once the terminal was unlocked, we knew that we could override it, but they still were stuck to that. The FTGL one would actually send a terminal replacement. So if like, hey, this is no longer compatible with our program, they would send a device and they didn't renew the terms of their lease. And then I would just tell the merchant, see this box right here? This is the one. This is the big date. Terminal needs to go back on this date. Or we could just swap it out, put this in the, up on your shelf until it's ready to send back and get you up and going. But like a lot of people talk to merchants about the tax benefit about a lease. I'm not a CPA, so I never mention anything about taxes. I say you talk to your accountant about that, how you could write this off or not. But predatory is predatory,
right?
That's it. Going back to that rep that joined us for a bit to try to make things right. He told me he got 50% of the lease after the first week. So you have a 4-year lease, signed. Let's say it's $4,000 for $200 equipment. He got paid $2,000 after the 3-day period expired, and a week later he got paid. So that's why he was out there. He was incentivized to sell leases. He said he never knew about merchant services. He thought he was doing the right thing, and that's why he pulled out. But he left us to go back to leasing because he said he was cash strapped. He just knew how to make money that way only.
So the third-party leasing companies, is that something where an agent would have an agreement with them and the third party sends the equipment to the merchant, or how does that relationship work?
I've seen paperwork for leasing before. Basically, you submit it. That company is financing the terminal. They're the ones that are collecting on the lease.
The third party is?
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I've seen that as a separate line item on bank statements. The new formats now, I'm not sure how it's being done.
And it really depends on the ISO that you're working with. Some ISOs will have a partnership with a third party, but when that happens, all the paperwork and the setup and everything happens through that third party.
Okay.
And then once they confirm the payment and the setup, then the ISO sends the equipment.
Got it. Okay. So let's shift to, and you've kind of touched on it a little bit already, how you could get a merchant out of a lease. I think at this point it sounds like there are a few particular cases where a lease is a good idea, but even if it's a large upfront, large restaurant or whatever, that you are spending a lot of money and maybe a lease is the right way to go, the point that you mentioned, James, about the technology changing so quickly, it's like maybe it's still not the best way to go. So I think a beneficial thing for our listeners at this point would be, if you walk into a merchant that is in one, how can you get them out of that? I'm sure you have plenty of war stories about how you have and continue to do that. It's
been a while. The last one was done maybe 2018, 2019. Okay. And that was, again, through the DOJ, NCDOJ. I've shared that type of information, and I've seen it work in California with their DOJ as well. One, it's not just like, oh, damn, I signed this paperwork, and I just want to get out of it. Right. You have to really be in a situation where it was, you have to prove it was predatory or it was done for financial profit. Those are some terms that you'd want to write on the complaint. They give you the information for you to upload your stuff. Because if you took, let's say if this was the lease right here, you pay a consulting fee to an attorney to read it. By the time they got to this page, oh, look, non-cancelable lease after the 3 days. You're stuck. Pay me my fee. You're done. Some will probably say that they could do some work, but your tax dollars at work is really where it's at, because we didn't write a check to the NCDOJ. This was them protecting the business owner or consumer. And in the scenario of the T7, we're like, okay, that terminal back then when she signed it was maybe $3.99 or so, or it might not have been around back then. nice and young over here. But the terminal itself, it's, for her to pay over $4,000 for this device, and it just kept renewing. We were able to prove that. We were able to put pictures of what the terminal cost new. We were able to put pictures of what they were selling at eBay. So we're like, hey, look, this terminal is only this. I've already paid $100 for this device. I've called the rep. They won't return the calls. You have to put a paper trail, step by step, and then you submit all that into the DOJ, and then you just wait. Right now, not sure what the turnaround time is, but what I did learn was I don't promise I could get anyone out of their lease. I tell them I could help make their situation better, because why would they want to keep financially, contributing to the person that took advantage of their their trust. Right. But that's the only way out that I've seen. Any attorney that I've heard of that has touched the lease, they've never been able to get it out. If there's one out there, chime in, because we'd love to know, and I'm sure all the reps would love to know. But really, your tax dollars at work. I mean, every website, there's even on the FTC website, there is a consumer complaint, so you can really go after them with the government. And when they receive a letter from the government, the state, the attorney general, that says a lot more, especially when you threaten media. Be like, hey, we're just a mom and pop shop. We're going to have the news over here tomorrow if you don't return my call.
So you said the last one you did of getting somebody out of a lease via DOJ was 2018?
Yeah, it was about 2018, 2019.
Were you doing that fairly often back then?
That was the 19th that I got out.
19th?
Yeah.
Out of how many do you think you tried
20.
total?
20.
Wow.
The one that I wasn't able to get out of the lease was the FTGL lease that they swapped the equipment, and it made it compatible for us to take over.
That's a pretty good shooting percentage.
Yeah.
19 of 20.
Well, back then, the only reason I really knew to go after the NCDOJ was in the mortgage industry when I was working. They had strict guidelines. This was before the market crashed, the housing issue, the bubble. If we did a interest-only loan back then, the commissioner of banks would call us, be like, do they know the terms? Do they understand? I'm like, it's my own loan. I know the terms. But I said, why didn't they have that for leasing? So then that's what made me keep digging. I hate when people get screwed over, and that little old lady at that little store, I know how much that cost her, to pay that extra $100 a month.
Right.
Yeah. But
do you think that, at least from my perspective, it seems like the idea that leases are more of a negative thing is pretty prevalent? Like, in your experience, do you think most people in our industry are aware of that?
Part of the problem is that leases themselves aren't inherently bad, and the ones that we tend to talk about are the ones that went bad, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you go online to leave a review somewhere. If I'm out having a great dinner with my wife, I don't always think to leave 5 stars if it was a great experience, right? But if that experience is soured, you better bet I'm getting on my phone and I'm pulling up Google reviews and I'm leaving that 1 star with a couple of paragraphs, right? And so we tend to fixate almost on the negative, and that's what we tend to talk about. The good experiences, when it works well, we just don't think about it because it just worked as it should. And so I think that oftentimes leases, they also get a bad rap like that because we talk about the negative. But there are instances where it can be a net benefit, especially for those larger, more complex installs where the equipment is so pricey up front, right? The only real other thing I would add to that would be there's no excuse in today's day and age to not be able to go through the paperwork in terms of the lease. And I know we're all guilty of it, right? You sign up for a new program and they have the terms of service and you just scroll all the way to the bottom and you sign your life away. And then you go into that new account or whatever it is you're going into.
That's what Carlos did when he came on this show, and he doesn't even know.
Right?
Just check the box.
Right. And we're all guilty of that. But in the age of AI especially, there's really no excuse to not have a good breakdown of what the lease is actually saying. What are the terms? What is it covering if the equipment fails? What do replacements look like? Those sorts of questions. So make sure that you've got a good grasp on that. Talk to your attorney. Have a good, clear understanding, because there's no reason today to just sign the dotted line blindly and turn that in.
I'll add to that if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Because there's plenty of reps that are going to watch this.
Yeah.
If you're incentivized and you're brand new into this industry and they say you can make a lot of money leasing, ask why.
Yeah.
Ask your customers if they've had the horror stories. It's not just about the money, because you can make the money.
Yeah.
The residuals will grow. The leasing is upfront money. But find out why you're getting 50% of a lease up front and why it's so difficult for a merchant to get out of them. And, do right by this industry. Otherwise, it's going to get so regulated that AI will take our jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of AI, James, you mentioned using AI. I know what you mean by that because I know what AI could do. But for people that don't, how would you use AI to make sure that those agreements are looked over?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I have to add that little asterisk that this is not financial advice, right?
Yeah.
Take AI with a grain of salt and proofread everything that it provides you. But there are all kinds of AI tools out there. We all know of some of the bigger names out there. You got ChatGPT that's on everyone's mind these days, right? There are other great tools as well. And just about all of them allow you to upload a document. So you can take a PDF copy of that lease, upload it, and ask for a clear, concise breakdown of said document. And that way you can have a better grasp of what is actually in it before you go off and sign the paperwork.
Right.
You could even ask it to review both sides of it. Like, as the buyer of this agreement, what are the red flags? Or as the seller, what are my what's beneficial to me? And it'll break it down both. And you should ask for this. You should get rid of this.
Absolutely. The red flags are a great point that Carlos made. What really stands out? Ask the AI, what do you think I should be wary of? What is a concern here? And it'll break that down for you. So.
Okay. Awesome. Like I said, I knew what you meant for sure.
Right.
Just in case anybody else
Chase
didn't
and
know.
I had some AI conversations on something completely unrelated before this podcast, and it was low-key.
Are they really here?
Where'd
it go?
All the conversations we have at this point, James, are about AI, but they're very one-sided, and if you want to guess who the one side is that's talking the whole time. But anyways.
It's like playing one versus the computer, but you do two players, you could play yourself and beat it.
Well, the problem is James might be playing one versus the computer, but when I play one versus the computer, James is the computer that I'm playing against. But to wrap up Leases. So it sounds like, I like the point that you made, James, about they kind of get a bad rap. The stories we hear about them are the bad stories. Yeah. But it's not like they were made to screw people over, right? They were made to have another financial option to pay for the equipment for a business owner. So it sounds like the important part is the transparency, which I think is a recurring theme. I was just listening back to one of the episodes that we did with you on contracts. Just transparency. There's a lot of people maybe just don't read the contract. There can be some funny business involved in this industry, but even if there is funny business involved, there's still, it's on paper somewhere, right? So if hopefully whoever you're working with is being transparent, and if not, just be diligent, look over the information that you're provided before you give your signature, like Carlos gave his signature to us to sign his life away.
I ran it through the system.
Like my grandparents used to say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? If you have a rep coming in promising everything in the world to you, take note of that. Just watch out.
Yep. Yeah. I like that. Write that last line down from James' grandparents.
Smart grandparents.
Everybody. Yeah.
They were
good.
They heard it from probably their parents and parents, so that goes way up the line.
And then James heard it through AI.
There you go.
If my grandfather could only see me now. Actually, he's still alive.
There you go. That's a nice.
Hi, Grandpa. If you're watching this.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I think this was good, informational, fun. The trivia part was super fun. I'm glad everyone loves that.
Cardboard cards. I would not have guessed that one.
One cardboard card for that one guy that was embarrassed. He was just embarrassed.
I have to find that on eBay.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
But again, always, Carlos, thank you for joining us. James,
thank you.
Thank you as always. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Paycast Network.
Nice.
Cut in there before
Ow.
Yeah, what was that? That was crazy, huh? All right,
What?
cool.
When?
He was doing his closing. Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Here's James.